Hi, Facebook and YouTube, friends, family, and others. Today I wanted to come to you with a little exhortation from the book of Hebrews, as well as the book of Corinthians. In Hebrews, I want to bring you to Hebrews chapter 3, starting at verse 7. It says, "Wherefore, even as the Holy Spirit saith," this is old King James stuff, "Today, if ye hear his voice, harden not your hearts, as in the provocation, like as in the day of the trial in the wilderness." Like the Israelites endured in the wilderness. They were on trial. God was testing them. And they failed. A lot of them failed. We're going to read about that. Verse 9, "Where your fathers tried me by proving me, and saw my works 40 years. 10, "Wherefore I was displeased with this generation." Why was God displeased with this generation? And he said, "They do always err in their hearts." In their hearts. Your heart is where your affections are, your desires. They weren't for God. We're going to read about that in Corinthians. So he was displeased with them because they always err in their hearts. But they did not know my ways. It continues in verse 10. Verse 11, "And I swear in my wrath, they shall not enter into my rest. Take heed, brethren," verse 12, "lest haply there be in any of one of you an evil heart of unbelief." When you have an evil heart, there's some unbelief in your being. You don't believe God that he's telling you that he set you free from sin through his son's blood. You don't believe God that he's powerful and mighty and he's able to strengthen you with the strength that and the power that he used to raise his son from the dead. The same power is at work in you. You must believe him. If you don't believe him, you're going to fall into error. You're going to fall into sin and disobedience. So, verse 13, "But exhort one another day by day, so long as it is called today, lest any one of you be hardened," watch this, "be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin." Sin's deceitful. You know, God's telling you one reality, that sin kills, steals, and destroys, and it's the opposite of love. And sin is telling you, I'm going to give you what you need and you want. And it promises 1,000 things to you and never gives. You know, you might have some temporary fix, but it always makes the desire deeper. And you can never satisfy that hunger and desire for more and more and more. It's just like a drug. Sin is like a drug. You can't stop it. It is all consuming. And the only real solution and the medicine is Jesus Christ and what he's come to do at the cross to set you free from this disaster and sure disaster. So we're supposed to remind each other daily lest we be, caught up in the deceitfulness of sin. Because it's very deceitful. It tells you there's another reality, the other than the one that God's told you already. And it promises pleasure and love. It promises you fun and fantasy and joy untold and exhilaration and all these wonderful things. And I assure you, I hope you don't go down the road I did, where you had to really learn the lesson of what sin truly does to a person. It ruins them. It causes shame to come upon the person. It causes fear and trembling because you're without God in the world. Don't go that route. I accumulated shame upon shame upon shame in my life. And I assure you the same thing will happen to you if you continue down that route with sin. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's deceiving you. It wants to steal your soul. So let's go over to 1 Corinthians chapter 10. It says, verse 1, "For I would not, brethren, have you ignorant, that our fathers were all under the cloud, and all passed through the sea, and were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea." There's water and spirit, right? The water of the sea and the spirit is the cloud. We all need to be baptized in two ways, the water and the Spirit. 3, and did all eat the same spiritual food? And did all drink the same spiritual drink? And they drank of the spiritual rock that followed them. And that rock was Christ. 5, howbeit with most of them God was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. 6, now these things are examples. They're examples to us, to the intent we should not lust after evil things. What did he do? He overthrew them in the desert. He says they're an example for you. The intent we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. Verse 7, neither be ye idolaters as were some of them. As it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. Neither let us commit fornication. Fornication is lust after and desire for sexual experience, even in the mind, not just in body to body. It's in the mind. You need to get rid of it. That's fornication. It's uncleanliness. Neither let us commit fornication as some of them committed and fell. In one day, 320,000. 320,000. That's a lot of people in one day. He's saying, let this be an example to you. Don't fool around with God. Don't fool around with him. 9, neither let us make trial of the Lord as some of them made trial and perished by the serpents. Neither murmur ye as some of them murmured. You start complaining, I'm not happy with my life. Look what God's done. And you complain and complain. And they perished by the destroyer. Verse 11. Now these things happened unto them by way of example. Again, he's telling you, this is another example. And now they were written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the ages has come. Wake up. Wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. What's the context of this? This context of verse 12 here, wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. He's not talking about somebody that's walking in holiness and purity, and people are saying to those, like people have said to me, oh, take heed lest you fall because you're self-righteous. No, I'm not self-righteous. I'm God-righteous. He's producing righteousness in me. It's not me. The minute I step out of his spirit, I'm going to be the same ugly, sinful, wretched creature that I've always been. No, it's the Spirit of God in me that made me different. I've been born of the Spirit now, and I have his Holy Spirit teaching me daily how to walk and how to live in holiness and purity, and you can too. So take heed lest you fall. A lot of people are thinking that God's not taking notice of this, that God just keeps on mercy and mercy and grace and grace. Grace means favor of God, and you're trampling upon the blood of Christ. It says that you bring reproach upon God by your behavior, by the way you're behaving. No. Take heed lest you fall like they did in the desert. The people that murmured and